Jumpstart Your Creativity. 10 Jolts to get creative and stay creative. Part of the Jumpstart series. Written by Shawn Doyle and Rowell. Your narrator is Rich Germain. Chapter 1. Ideation Techniques. Italian movie star legend Sophia Loren once stated, "There is a fountain of youth. It is your mind, your talents, the creativity you bring to your life and the lives of people you love. When you learn to tap this source, you will truly have defeated age." Welcome to How to Skin a Badger. Oh, wait, hold it. That's the other book title we're working on. Welcome to Jumpstart Your Creativity. Think of this book as a powerful generator with big jumper cables to give you 10 jolts to fire up your creativity. The authors, Shawn Doyle and Rowell, are your creativity expert hosts. In this day and age of information overload and cynicism, with sound bites like, "Life would be great if," or "I'm just surviving." How about this one? We used to. We say, there is great hope among us. Creativity abounds with fervor, zest, and zeal. All of the technology we take for granted today came from creative people who had the courage to pursue their dreams. The Post-it note, the Segway, the iPhone, even the 100 miles to the gallon hybrid car made by Philadelphia high school students were all made possible because of, yes, you're smart and you guessed it, creativity. Austrian daredevil Felix Baumgartner made the highest and fastest jump in history, leaping out of a helium balloon at an altitude of 128,100 feet, reaching a maximum speed of 833.9 miles per hour, or Mach 1.24, and safely landing on Earth after a mile-long parachute ride. Future NASA astronauts will wear the identical suit that Baumgartner wore. This was made possible by the collaboration, expert science and math, and the creativity of more than 300 people, including more than 70 engineers, scientists, and physicians who've been working for 5 years. Most of us will never participate in such a creative breakthrough, world record-setting project. If you fall from a high distance, you really need to have a team of experts, so don't try this at home. You may only have to be creative a few times each month, coming up with an alternate route during rush hour, new ways to get your kids to clean up their rooms, or creative financing to keep your lights on and a roof over your head, or a big project at work. No matter how mundane or extraordinary our lives may seem to us, our ability to access greater creativity is one engine for innovation in our daily lives, hopefully to better our lives, our families, our communities, towns, countries, and someday the world. We are optimists. Creativity most often begins because of a grand idea or to overcome a problem, challenge, or obstacle. Peter Diamandis, founder of the X Prize Foundation, graduate of MIT and Harvard Medical School, and award-winning journalist Stephen Kotler, co-authored Abundance, which started with a big, hairy, audacious goal. Imagine a world of 9 billion people with clean water, nutritious food, affordable housing, personalized education, top-tier medical care, and non-polluting ubiquitous energy. Building this better world is humanity's grandest challenge. The hundreds of X Prize competitions completed to date have unleashed creativity, innovation, and sheer determination for problem-solving in the most unlikely places and with the most unlikely of characters. We are inspired by Peter Diamandis, Steve Jobs, Walt Disney, Dr. Seuss, as well as average Joes and Sallys who embrace their creativity every day. We've written this book for every Joe, Sally, Tom, Enrique, Lakeisha, you, Rufus, and Caius, who know deep in their heart of hearts they have creativity inside of them, can remember it from their childhood, and yearn to let it out once again. Imagine a book on creativity that has no fluff, never wastes your time, is fun to read, and gives you exact steps to generate better ideas, evaluate those ideas, and get better results. We embrace this big idea and hope that you benefit from our gift to you. We know that 91% of all people who buy a book never read more than the first chapter. So we have packed this first chapter with immediate actionable strategies on how to come up with new ideas using brainstorming that works. It's called Ideation, and we'll show you how to use it right now. First, to get a little business out of the way so you understand who is talking to you in this book and why we are qualified to teach you about creativity, we offer you our quick bios. Shawn, he's the guy waving on the right, but you can't really see him because he's off camera. He's been a trainer, book author, consultant, and cartoonist for more than 2 decades. More than he likes to admit. Shh, he's 54. He has written 14 books at the time of this writing, and is writing 3 more as you read these words. Shawn has resilience and discipline seldom seen, and a generous spirit that inspires every audience. He is truly motivated by helping others improve their lives. Stephen, he's the guy waving on the left, has been a trainer, speaker, consultant, and book author for many years as well. He used to work for the Walt Disney World Company. Boy, talk about creative. And is known in many circles as the Idea Doctor, a name given to him by his clients that has stuck with him. He's a serial entrepreneur, classic ADD, ADHD, bright shiny object idea machine with a huge heart for helping others. Many people tell us individually that we are the most creative people they know. Since we are both creative maniacs and we teach creativity in corporate and nonprofit classrooms across the United States, we feel somewhat qualified to help you jumpstart your creativity. So let's move beyond the resume propaganda and into what you really care about, learning how to be more creative. Now please note, our publisher's legal department objected to the term propaganda and asked us to take it out, but we thought it was really cool. So, being the creative rebels that we are, we stuck it back into the final manuscript and hope they don't notice. This book does not have the proverbial required introductory chapter that tells you what we are going to tell you. We figured we would show you some respect and just go ahead and cut right to the chase. Okay, let's start with this. This is your brain. Okay, just in case you're thinking literally, that line is not actually your brain. This is the title of this section. After traveling through the country teaching people how to be more creative, we realized most people approach creativity different from the way your brain really works. For example, I mention the word frog. You think green, which reminds you of the grass on a golf course. Speaking of golf, boy, last week George really got plastered on the 16th hole. Speaking of plaster, I probably need to repair that hole in the wall that is there because I took that big mirror down, and I need to remember to stop at the hardware store to buy some plaster. You know, when I think of plaster, it makes me think of the old days when people would put plaster on somebody's skin to remove disease. Some people call that plaster. No, this is not ramblings of an insane person. This is how most people really think. Most of us do not think in a linear way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We think more in terms of connections and associations, as in that run-on sentence about the frog. In fact, you could connect them in the following ways. Golf George plastered repair old days. This is how our brain really works, a loose series of connected associations that are all somehow related to one another. Think of it as a spider web, a fishing net, a pinball machine, or Lady Gaga's meat dress. Okay, maybe the last one was not a good example. Sorry for being a little too creative. But if you think of a web or a net, each string or strand goes from point to point. Are you with us so far? The point is, most people conduct brainstorming or ideation in a way that is not linked to how the brain actually works. The processes of brainstorming are often way too linear, and that's why too often they don't work at all. We pile people into a conference room, pull out a marker and a flip chart and say, "Okay, people, let's generate some ideas." Most people we talk to detest brainstorming. Why do they detest brainstorming? We hear many reasons. Most of them are, say, it is highly effective and awkward, or in the majority of cases, the person facilitating the brainstorming does not do a good job. Another common complaint is that people too often make comments or judgments aloud in response to others' contributions during the brainstorming, and this shuts some participants down, keeping them from contributing any more to the discussion. Our goal in this book is to help you understand tools, tips, techniques, and approaches you can apply today to help you generate better ideas, evaluate them, and get better results. Let's examine why you are reading this book. Why are you interested in jumpstarting your creativity? Why are your jumper cables out to begin with? Why do you need a jolt to get you going in terms of creativity? Why do we ask why? Because we know that you will get a lot more out of the book if you have identified the reason you want to learn about creativity in the first place. Your reasons may include, I am not creative, but I want to learn to be more creative. I am already creative and would like to be more creative. I haven't studied very much about creativity and would like to understand more. I need to be more creative at work, and this will help me generate better results. I have to get more creative with my dates, or I may never get married. I need to be more creative with my children and help them stay creative. My life isn't working right now, and I'm finally ready to fix it. My wife said I need to read it. My dog said I need to read it. My cat downloaded the book on my e-reader, so I figured I might as well read it. So what is your goal? Some of the goals you have may be in this list, and some may not. Write down the reasons you are reading this book and why you want to jumpstart your creativity. If you are reading this on an e-reader of any kind, please do not write on the screen with a marker. Please write your reasons on a piece of paper with a pen, marker, or pencil. Now, circle your top 2 or 3 that are the most important and urgent. Circle the ones that have the greatest potential to make a difference in your work or your life. Now that we have determined your why for creativity, and you know what you want to work on, the rest of this chapter is designed to give you tools, tips, and approaches for generating new and unique ideas. Let me give you, first of all, a dictionary definition of creativity. There are actually 2. It's a noun. Number 1, the ability to transcend traditional ideas, rules, patterns, relationships, or the like, and to create meaningful new ideas, forms, methods, interpretations, and so on. Originality, progressiveness, or imagination. The need for creativity in modern industry, creativity in the performing arts. And a second definition, the process by which one utilizes creative ability. So before we go further, one quick word of caution. The process of ideating is extremely messy and imprecise. It is a mix of science and art. Ideating is a big hot mess, and you often end up with a massive collection of ideas. When you review these ideas, you will find there are some horrible ideas, and some not so horrible ideas, some really stupid ideas, some good ideas, and a few brilliant ideas. Keep in mind that during the ideation phase, you are not making judgments about the quality of the ideas. Your goal should be to develop as many ideas as possible. It's about quantity, not quality at this stage. Having lots of ideas helps generate more ideas. It's a catalytic process. When Stephen and I brainstorm a book, project, program, or a product, we come up with a multiplicity of ideas, probably too many. We both realize the more ideas we come up with, the more these ideas multiply, and we come up with other ideas. Now let's talk about ideation materials. Many people often ask us this question: where do you come up with all of these ideas? Our answer is usually something like, well, they just come to us. When people who aren't creative or who want to be more creative hear us say that an idea just comes to us, they are often mystified and sometimes frustrated, wishing they could say the same thing. It often sounds to people as though the ideas fell out of the sky and into our laps. So we do not say, the ideas just come to us. What we do say is, both of us, over our entire careers as both employees of corporate America and as serial entrepreneurs, have developed a set of tools and approaches that help us develop ideas and concepts quickly. So how can you find ideas and information? First, we want to encourage you to be aware of information and stimulation and ideas that are continually circulating around you. Often the information circulating around you at work and at home can be a source of inspiration. If you pay attention and are observant, you will see, touch, smell, and hear information that can be a stimulus for an idea. Shawn once received a catalog for restoration hardware. He was so inspired by this catalog that he wrote an article about it. Here is a short excerpt from that article. I went out to the mailbox to get my mail this afternoon. I sat down for a light lunch and was sorting the mail, not knowing that I would come across something that was absolutely amazing. I reached into the stack and pulled out the latest restoration hardware catalog. I opened the front cover and was immediately pulled into a new world. Inside the cover was an impassioned message from the CEO with an amazing picture of him wearing a leather jacket. As I turned the pages, I realized that I was not looking at the catalog, but I was looking at a work of art. And I was amazed at the quality of the photos, the layout, and the extraordinary way all of the products were arranged in each picture. It reminded me of a brochure from a world-class art museum. As I sat slack-jawed, looking through the glossy pages, I started thinking, has a catalog ever amazed me before? No. Have I ever been fascinated by a catalog before? No. Have I ever considered a catalog a work of art before? No. What is it that made that catalog so amazing? As I contemplated this over my lunch, I realized what it was. It was extraordinary. Often there are things that you come across or are exposed to that can have an impact on you creatively, but you have to be alert enough to notice it. So here are a few tips from the creative team to help you be a better observer and creator. First, open your eyes. Wherever you are, make sure to look at what's going on around you. We often have the experience of saying to someone when walking in a city, "Hey, did you notice that clown back there doing a handstand on the unicycle juggling oranges?" The typical response is, "Where did you see that?" Come on, open your eyes, people. We know the typical routine is to walk with your eyes looking down, make no connection with other people, and listen to the music playing on your iPod. With this routine, you are missing out on stimulus that may help generate your next best idea. But don't beat yourself up for this. An interesting 1999 Harvard University study, Gorillas in Our Midst, by Daniel Simmons and Christopher Chabris, coined the terms inattentional blindness and change blindness. The idea is that people often miss seeing large changes in their visual field, even if these changes are significant enough to be easily noticed if one is expecting them. Filling out forms at the doctor's office without reading them, realizing everybody has a car just like mine the day after you purchase your new car. These cars were always around you, you just didn't realize it. And missing a clown in the road when you are staring down the street are all examples of how easy it is for us to miss these things with our eyes. Next, read. Oh, well, thank you. You guys are geniuses. I should read? Wow, that's a new one. But we have a very specific suggestion about reading. If you want to become more creative and more innovative and better at generating ideas, don't just read fiction like most people. Read biographies about creative people. Read biographies about inventors and artists. Read about architects, jugglers, circus performers, sideshows, explorers, astronauts, movie directors. We're not saying that fiction can't stimulate your creativity, but nonfiction work is often laced throughout with new ideas, approaches, and inspiration. So we recommend a mix of fiction and nonfiction books about creative people, creative ideas, creative lives, and of course, how to be more creative. If you read a book about the building of the Eiffel Tower, you can't help but be stimulated with the amazing creativity and innovation that was involved in building the tower, at least if you're paying attention, that is. Next, change up. If you normally read magazines about engineering or project management, you have our sympathies. Okay, that was a joke. But if you normally read magazines about your industry, go to the newsstand or download to your e-reader magazines that you normally don't read. Getting outside of your normal reading and viewing habits can certainly stimulate your creativity. Next, watch new. The popularity of the new sources for video viewing has been a boon to people who are creative. Why is that? Well, often both of us spot documentaries on Netflix or on Amazon that we would have never known about in the past, nor would they have been available. With a quick click, you can download any number of documentaries, television shows, or movies that you never had access to before. These can be tremendously stimulating to your creativity. The same approach can work by looking for videos online at sites such as YouTube in order to stimulate your creativity. Next, don't dismiss. Too many times, when we see something that is viewed as creative or as a little bit different, we have a tendency to dismiss it. Think about popular acts that are currently playing across the country at the writing of this book. The Blue Man Group has many shows in several cities that are all highly successful. Cirque du Soleil has dozens of shows playing around the world, almost all of them highly successful. However, we are both completely convinced that in the early days of the Blue Man Group, people probably thought they were wacky and that they would never be successful. The same is true for Cirque du Soleil. How do you possibly explain either one of them to someone who has never seen them? It's difficult at best. A circus with no animals? 3 blue men? But yet, both of these shows are so creative and so amazing that they have been very successful. Even if something is not successful, it is still a good idea for you to pay attention to it, because it might give you new and different ideas that you can apply to your own life or work. Keep a morgue. We know that you're shocked by this suggestion, as you certainly are not a medical examiner or a funeral director. So what the heck is a morgue? Back in the old days, professional cartoonists used to keep what they called a morgue. What is a morgue for a cartoonist? It was simply pictures that they had cut out of magazines and newspapers and filed them for future reference. So if a cartoonist was drawing a frog, for example, he or she would simply look in their F files for pictures of frogs. Why does a cartoonist need a picture of a frog? Well, it's very simple. It's easier to draw a frog when looking at a picture of a real one. This was before the internet. Consequently, a cartoonist would have thousands of pictures of anything you can imagine that would be required to draw in a cartoon. It could be a picture of a crab, or a camel, or Cadillac. The pictures were important reference points to draw cartoons that looked like what they were trying to depict. So what would be your version of a morgue? It could be a notebook, or a file that you physically drop images into, or an electronic collection that you can access when needed. The idea is to collect images, articles, fabric, whatever materials stimulate your creativity. We think of this as idea harvesting. The harvest goes into your morgue. You could tear pages out of a catalog, put in a note from a legal pad, Drop in a greeting card that someone gave you, or a napkin from a restaurant you went to while on a business trip. You define what they are. If they inspire you or stimulate your creativity, they go into your morgue. We are sure by now you've probably figured out the way that a morgue is used. When in the process of creativity, you pull out your physical or electronic morgue file and look it over. Hopefully, something there will stimulate a creative idea. Before we cover the ideation techniques, there's one other key component that we need to review with you. This is known as displayed thinking. Anytime you're in the midst of a creative activity for generating ideas or creative solutions, you need to make sure to write those on a whiteboard or flip chart or the wall so that everyone can see the answers. How does displayed thinking help in the creative process? Well, simply put, it allows each person in the group to see the ideas as they are recorded, and that helps them know what has been said, and they can also feed off the ideas that are being displayed. If those ideas were written on a small legal pad where only a few people could see them, it does not work nearly as well. So don't make the fatal mistake of not writing the ideas in a place where everybody in the group working on the ideas can see them. Display the thinking on a whiteboard or flip chart. Now let's get into the techniques. There are several different ideation techniques you can use to generate ideas. What we are asking you not to do is brainstorm. We believe that the era of effective brainstorming is over because we say so. Just kidding. In all seriousness, we think that brainstorming has lost its effectiveness because it has been overdone and poorly done. Most people, when invited to a brainstorming session, are not exactly thrilled. When there are so many other great techniques out there aside from brainstorming, why use the one that's the senior citizen falling apart and on life support? One cautionary point regarding ideation with groups is the importance of avoiding groupthink. Groupthink can surface when groups are brainstorming or discussing issues. Groupthink occurs in several ways, such as the group depending too heavily on consensus-based group decisions to the point that individual creativity and contribution is minimized or missed altogether, letting individual biases or viewpoints, especially from high-influence group members, keep others from sharing their ideas or causing them to unfortunately modify their statements to be accepted by the group, even though their authentic statement might be in contrast to the discussion. Now here are some ideation tips. Smaller groups working together is better than trying to ideate with a large group of participants. 6 to 8 is ideal, 9 to 12 is tough, and 13 and more a hot mess. To avoid groupthink, instead of relying solely on open discussion and sharing ideas aloud by group members, you may want to have each person write down their thoughts on a piece of paper and turn them in. The facilitator may or may not post all of the responses at that time. It depends on the goal of that session. Make sure you have the right people in the room. We mean make sure you have all areas represented, all levels of the organization contributing, or all of the subject matter experts who should be involved. Ideation in a vacuum results in less than best results. At the end of this chapter, you will see our recommended rules for ideation. Now let's dig into 13 of our more than 50 ways to come up with new ideas through ideation. Ideation technique number 1, reverse brainstorming. Reverse brainstorming is exactly the same as regular brainstorming, except there is a unique twist. Remember, we asked you not to brainstorm the old way. Let's say we work for the Billings Bowling Ball Company. We get together with our team to brainstorm a way to increase sales and revenue. So the objective, as stated, is to increase sales and revenue. Instead of brainstorming the old way, we're going to use reverse brainstorming. Instead of talking about how to increase sales and revenue, we will brainstorm a list of the opposite or the reverse, which is how not to increase sales and revenue. This focus frees up everyone to be highly creative to figure out how not to meet the objective. We have conducted this exercise with hundreds of groups, and they always have a lot of fun figuring out ways to mess up everything. Once several flip chart pages of ideas have been written down, then, of course, we look at all of the ways not to increase sales and revenue and ask ourselves what the opposite of those would be. This is a highly effective technique for generating a ton of ideas. We have another name for reverse brainstorming. What is the dumbest thing you could do? When we remove the restraint of what can be done, it tends to encourage people's creativity. Ideation technique number 2. Random stimulation. Have you ever been riding a bicycle, working out, or even taking a shower, and you came up with a great idea that seemed like it was out of the blue? Sure, all of us have. We, however, do not believe the idea was out of the blue. It was stimulated by something. It may have been the image on the shampoo bottle, a graphic on the gym wall, or seeing what you saw when riding your bicycle around the marina. It was that spiderweb fishnet of a brain of yours firing off connections and ideas. Unconsciously, you saw, touched, heard, or felt something that stimulated that idea. This is the phenomenon known as random stimulation. Some outside external stimulus or stimuli randomly triggered your brain to generate an idea. Using this as an ideation technique, we can use one of several approaches to get our brain to randomly generate ideas, and then also do this in a meeting room. Approach number 1. Simply go to Google and click on the Google Image tab. Once there, choose various words at random. We might put in squid, and then look at all the pictures the word squid generates. Print out 1 or 2 images generated by the word squid. Then pick another word at random, such as architect. Pick 2 images under the architect category and print them out as well. After you go through a series of 10 random words and have printed pictures, these are used as a random stimulation exercise. Here's how it would work in a group setting. We would say to the group, we are currently trying to figure out a way of increasing sales and revenue, from the bowling ball company example. Now we ask the group to set that problem aside and look at a stack of random images. When looking at the images, the group members are only to say what those images remind them of, as a facilitator writes down the phrases and words they mention. After a large list of words have been generated from the random photos, you ask the group if any of the words on the list remind them of a solution to the problem. You would be amazed how many times we hear people say, "Oh, that reminds me of something. What if we did this?" The biggest challenge of the random stimulation approach is getting people to believe a tool that seems completely arbitrary, random, and somewhat abstract is useful in generating ideas. We have seen this approach work many times. Have we ever seen this approach not work? Of course. But the main reason it doesn't work, in most cases, is the fact that the group does not believe the approach will work. So they do not open themselves up to the possibilities because they had shut down before they even started. Approach number 2. This technique is exactly the same as mentioned in Approach 1. The only difference is the source material for the ideas. In this approach, each person brings 1 or 2 random magazines or catalogs to the meeting. A person selects a catalog, closes his or her eyes, flips through the pages, then points to one of the pages. The facilitator asks, "What is under the finger?" Either a word or a picture. The facilitator writes the word or the picture on the flip chart and then follows the same process as outlined in Approach 1. The key to this approach is making sure there are a variety of magazines from which to choose. Random stimulation is an effective technique. It has been rumored that this technique has been used effectively in Hollywood and New York in both film and television production for years. For example, A creative team could sit around and combine different words in order to come up with an idea for a show that was new or different. Someone could say, Playboy and Lifeguards. And of course, that would be the television show Baywatch. According to sources, that's exactly how the show was pitched to the network, Playboy Lifeguards. You could combine two words, such as millionaire and hillbillies, and come up, of course, with the Beverly Hillbillies. You could combine the ventriloquist and automobile and come up with the TV show Knight Rider. However, we refuse at this point to comment on the mentality of American television, but you get the idea. Ideation technique number 3, the rules. Often we find organizations have rules in place that have been in place for a long time. These rules served their purposes well during the time they were enacted, but may have outgrown their usefulness and may be holding the organization back. So the idea behind this technique is to write a list of all the rules an organization has. They could be about marketing, sales, design, and so on. And then figure out if those rules were to change, how would it change the ideas? For example, we just recently read an article about Applewood Farms, an organic meat producer that has grown successfully over the past 25 years. One of the defining moments of the CEO's history is when he realized that the company did not have to be in the meat production business. They reworked one of their own rules that said they didn't have to have a manufacturing facility. They could contract out that part of the process. That was a defining moment for the company. The idea here is to get a new perspective. Here are some tips. Read trade journals from different industries from your own. Try new things. Visit other companies. Watch different documentaries. Interview people in other industries. Ask yourself, beyond my industry, who else has dealt with similar problems and challenges? How did they address them? Find and talk to people who think differently. Military, civilian folks, engineers and artists, construction worker, dancer, athlete, librarian. Think of some of the rules that have dominated industries over the past several decades. Radio as local. Nope. Movies are watched at a movie theater. Hello, Netflix. Books are a physical product. Guess again. You have to go to college to go to college. Wrong. Businesses must have a brick-and-mortar presence. That's laughable today. Music has a physical form such as a CD. Can you say download? Data is stored on your computer. Hello, cloud. Pizza is cooked in an oven. Hi, microwave. To find someone to date, you have to go to a club or a church. Can you say eHarmony? You play games on a game system. Ha! Yogurt is in a cup. Wrong again. Go-gurt is in a tube. Business opportunities are based on rules and assumptions. But if you can make a list of all your rules and assumptions and then figure out if they are still relevant and have never been questioned, then you may have the basis for the next great idea, or even several of them. Ideation technique number 4, blank slate. The idea behind the blank slate technique is to remove all restrictions, limitations, and budgets from the ideation process. Come up with an objective and then say to the group, if we were starting today from scratch and had no limitations on structure, finances, or logistics, in other words, if we were starting from a blank piece of paper, how would we handle this problem, or this challenge, or situation? When there are no limits, people tend to become a lot more creative and innovative. Once the list is built, then have the group go back and look over the solutions to see if any of them would actually work. Ideation technique number 5, the consulting team. Using this technique, have the group create a list of various celebrities. The celebrities need to be from all areas, including sports, entertainment, literature, and art. Also, make sure that they picked both current and celebrities from the past, including those from history. Once the list is developed, pick a dozen names from the list, which are a mix of both current and past celebrities, Then pose the problem and ask, how would this situation be handled by Donald Trump, Lady Gaga, Muhammad Ali, Bette Midler, Napoleon, Louis Armstrong, Gustave Eiffel, Renoir, Thomas Edison, Madame Curie, Hillary Clinton, Ronald Reagan, Big Bird, Donald Duck, Plato. The group has a lot of fun coming up with how each celebrity would handle the problem or the opportunity or challenge. The best way to conduct the exercise is to have the team members consider each celebrity one at a time and talk about how that person would handle it. Often groups laugh and snicker during this exercise, which seems to border on being ridiculous. After the list has all been written out as to how each celebrity would handle those situations or problems, the group then reviews to see if some of them would make any sense. This can be a very effective tool for getting out of your own way and thinking about a problem or situation from very different viewpoints. Ideation technique number 6. What if this was? The idea behind this exercise is to talk about how a problem, opportunity, or challenge would be handled if it was treated as being something else entirely. How does this exercise work? We simply make a list in advance. Feel free to use our list coming up, and then ask the group how they would handle it if it were as described. For example, let's say we are trying to gain market share from a competitor. If we ask the group, how would you treat this if it was a war? The answers are much different from asking, how would you handle this if it was a social movement? It always amazes us how the answers change dramatically when people look at the problem in a completely different and unique way. Here is a suggested list of the what-ifs. What if it was a war? What if it was a movement? What if there was an exclusive club? What if it was a rare collectible? What if it was a party? What if it was a dance rave? What if it was a celebration? What if there was a charitable cause? What if it was a patriotic event? What if it was an unveiling? What if there was a space rocket launch? What if it was a visit by state dignitaries? What if it was a pep rally? What if it was a car show? What if it was a football game? What if it was a chess match? Obviously, the solutions and ideas from each of these would be remarkable and different. That is the idea and the power of this technique. Ideation technique number 7, word chain. This technique is an idea using words as a way of generating ideas through the technique of word association. Simply put, one person in the group starts with a word and says that word out loud. The next person in the group then has to say a word that reminds him or her of that word. Each word that has spoken out loud needs to be written on a flip chart by the facilitator. So, for example, someone says frog, another person says hop, another person says beer, and then we end up with a word chain consisting of frog, hop, beer, golden, retriever, collector, taxes, Rome, gladiator, fight, gloves, winter, snow, ice, cream, cone, pine, tree, floor, cleaner, wood, mop, the Beatles, England, the Queen, rock band. Obviously, once that entire list has been written on the chart, the group then reviews the list of words to see if there is something on that list that could be possibly aligned with or would help solve the problem, opportunity, or the challenge. Ideation technique number 8. Crunchy cheese curls. Buy a large bag of crunchy cheese curls and bring it with you to meet with the group. Break the group into smaller groups and pour a bowl of crunchy cheese curls for each group. Identify the objective that you're working on. Have members of each group pull out a cheese curl one at a time and write down what the particular shape of that cheese curl reminds them of. Now, it's very important that you purchase crunchy cheese curls and not just the soft kind. The soft kind all have the same shape. The crunchy kind have many unique shapes. It's kind of like looking at the shapes of clouds and imagining what they are. An additional benefit of this exercise is that you now have snacks as well as a way to stimulate your creativity. Ideation technique number 9, dead silence. Purchase a bunch of colorful, small, sticky pads and put them on the table. State the objective of the ideation, and then ask each person to be completely and totally silent for a period of 7 minutes. During that time, each person is to individually write down potential solutions on their 3x5 sticky note. After the 7-minute period of absolute silence, ask each person to post their sticky note on the wall, and then review each one at a time, in random order. Generally, we find this exercise to be incredibly helpful, as it is very rare when people are completely and totally silent. There is often a lot going on when people are trying to ideate. We have both found that we tend to generate great ideas when flying on planes. Our theory is that the reason why planes are so effective is that they are often quiet, and we are isolated from interruptions and noises. So we have purchased a plane just for the purposes of ideation. Just kidding. By the way, did you know, speaking of sticky notes, Post-it notes were discovered as a result of a mistake? Actually, it was a failed invention that created Post-it notes. Spencer Silver, a researcher at 3M, was working on a new heavy-duty adhesive, but the substance he created was weaker than any adhesive they had at the time. Years later, in 1980, Arthur Fry, a 3M engineer, needed a solution for keeping his choir hymnal bookmarks to stick on the pages, and they worked well. So an executive assistant passed samples around the 3M office to other assistants, and they began to use them on folders, reports, and contracts. When the 3M product development team presented the idea to the executive team, executives realized they had been using them for months and loved them. The idea was approved and are now available in 27 sizes, 57 colors, and 20 fragrances, resulting in $1 billion of sales for 3M alone. There are 19 other companies now making copycat notepads with their combined sales exceeding $1 billion. Ideation technique number 10, wacky hero. Using this technique, we get a little crazy and add some humor to the equation by asking a group to have the problem, situation, or challenge solved by a fictitious hero. Once we state the objective, we give the group a list of fictitious heroes and ask them how these heroes would solve the problem. The funny part is that people are puzzled and fascinated by the names of the heroes, and they have to not only figure out what the hero does, what their superpowers are, but how this hero would theoretically solve the problem. So here is a list of our fictitious heroes. But hey, this is a book on creativity, so feel free to make up your own list if you like. After people have reviewed each superhero and come up with a list of potential solutions, get back together as a group and discuss. Here's the list: Butterman, Green Beanie Man, Blobo, Blue Hopper, Mushman, Oil Girl, Fox Flipper, Silver Sue, Waddle Woman, Trendy Man, Cloud Rider, Super Squid, Underboy, Mighty Dust Mite, Wonder Blunder, and Stinger Clown. Ideation technique number 11, needs not being met. Dr. Phil McGraw, the Dr. Phil on television and Oprah's former co-host, is now famous for the question, "How's that working for you?" And most of the time people respond to his question, or at least on his TV show, with, "Well, it's not working for me." This ideation technique is great when working to come up with new solutions or enhancements for an existing product, service, or system. Let's take a look at the shower stall and shower head in your bathroom, hypothetically. When thinking of your current shower stall and shower head in your bathroom at home, what needs are not being met right now? For example, you might say, "Not safe. Water gets too hot too quickly. It's dangerous and scalds me." Not enough shower heads. Not staying dry when I turn it on. Shower head rotates toward the door and I get splashed with ice cold water when I first turn it on. It used to never do this. Not easy to clean. Not enough shelf space. No place to hang my loofah sponge. Drain is way too slow. Water spills out onto carpet way too easily. Not enough overhead lighting for nighttime. Not enough space. Can't be in there with my spouse. Too tight to wash my dog. Not relaxing. No music, no seat, no massage jets. Only one shower head. This triggers the thought, not comfortable. One great opportunity from this exercise is shown in the final example, not relaxing. By identifying the need that this is not being met currently, such as relaxing, you realize there are a host of issues related to this one issue, such as no music, no seat, not enough jets or shower heads, and it prompts you to think about the lack of comfort as well. Research has shown that for most of us, it is easier and faster to look at something critically and identify what is wrong or missing rather than find the good or what is right about something. Once you have come up with your list of the needs not being met by this product, service, system, or situation, you can then start to look at 1, which of these needs are most urgent and important to address, and 2, which need or needs must be met and soon. And finally, 3, what do I or we have to stop doing, start doing, or continue doing to get my needs met? Ideation technique number 12. Pillars. Another ideation technique is designed to prompt your creativity by taking you through a series of pillars. The first 5 pillars were popularized by Jim Collins' life work on what makes companies great, found in his groundbreaking books, Built to Last and Good to Great. The rest of these pillars have been identified by our audiences over the past several years. Some pillars won't help your situation, so simply skip them. The pillars are service, quality, cost, growth, people, efficiency, productivity, safety. One example for this ideation technique is a team who is working through all of the issues related to whether or not we purchase new uniforms for our employees. Notice this ideation technique especially helps in the decision-making process. The ideation facilitator will write these words in 2 columns on a flip chart or dry erase board, and all participants will have a blank piece of paper in front of them. The participants will write each pillar down and then list their ideation issues underneath each pillar. The facilitator will remind everyone of the specifics of the topic, new uniforms, and then read aloud the first pillar. For example, after the papers are collected at the end, you might find the following results. Under quality, buy uniforms that will last. Don't buy cheap uniforms. I hope we get uniforms that last more than 3 months. Get better uniforms. Our current ones wear out in the armpits too fast. I'd rather have the company buy me 3 sets of high-quality uniforms rather than 5 sets of cheaply made, low-cost uniforms. If the company would buy better quality uniforms, I'm fine with them giving me 3 sets and then I buy any more sets myself. Please don't put the patches with our names on the shirts. It looks tacky and it makes us look less professional. I sure hope we do a fashion show and bring in 5 or 6 options, letting folks vote for the one they think is the best quality and best fit for the work they do. We better test wash the uniforms we are considering because a few years ago, the shirts lost their color fast, and we looked horrible for a whole year. Let's buy uniforms that are machine washable, but have that wrinkle-free technology in them so our folks' uniforms look clean and pressed every day. After the ideation process, then the team can go through a consensus exercise to determine the most important factors and decision-making criteria. Now let's discuss the rules. Yes, we know it's funny to talk about rules in a book about creativity, but there are a few rules that are absolutely essential in making sure the ideation process is successful. Whenever you're working with a group generating ideas and solutions, make sure to state the rules up front before you start. Designate someone in the group as rule enforcer to make sure the rules are enforced. Rule number 1, have fun. We have learned from working with many of our clients that the more fun the client is having, the more creative they can be and the more ideas flow. Rule number 2, no judgment. When people are generating ideas, the ideas may be good, bad, or brilliant. But the worst thing that can happen during the ideation phase is for someone to start judging the ideas as they are being developed. This will immediately destroy all of the creativity in the room. Rule number 3, no negativity. When people make negative comments and say negative things like, that won't work, then they're going to kill the creative environment. Do not allow this to happen under any circumstances. Okay, we know that was a little negative, but it was necessary. Rule number 4, don't evaluate while you're trying to create. That should be a separate, distinct process that happens later. Rule number 5, have an open mind. Too often it is the close-minded people of the world who refuse to be creative, and they ruin creative endeavors. Encourage your people to have open minds and to consider all the possibilities available to them. That is one of the benchmarks of creativity. So now we've given you 12 different techniques for coming up with ideas. Would you like more? The good news is we have more than 50 different ways for generating ideas. You can access these by simply going to timetojumpstart.com. Now, whatever happens, embrace accidents for success. The following inventions or discoveries came randomly or by way of accidents: cornflakes, microwave ovens, silly putty, Play-Doh, mauve dye, Sweet and Low, potato chips, fireworks, plastic, warfarin or brand name Coumadin, Rogaine, NutraSweet, penicillin, Teflon, Viagra, Smart Dust, Slinky, Pacemaker, Scotchgard, LSD, inkjet printers, X-rays, Goodyear, vulcanized rubber. When you make room for accidents and random discoveries, you free up everyone to engage in greater creativity that leads to far superior innovation and much better results. The following is a brief list of sources that continue to inspire both of us each and every month. As a disclaimer, please note that we are not being paid or compensated to endorse or to promote any of these products, goods, or services. These are examples that you might want to check out that may inspire you. First of all, a list of magazines. Fast Company often features amazing articles about people who were thinking very creatively. Inc. often features some crazy entrepreneur who is approaching a business in an entirely new way. Wired. You would think that this is a magazine about computers and technology, and in one sense you are right, but in another sense you would be wrong. It's about how technology is applied creatively to the world at large. Psychology Today has lots of ideas about the mind. Vogue. Want to see the best pictures in fashion? Talk about creativity. Entrepreneur has lots of cool ideas about what business people are doing and thinking. Success is full of ideas that come from all over the place within inspiring collections of success stories. Now here's a list of websites. TED.com, the site of conferences with ideas worth spreading. Google.com/images. If you go to Google, click on the tab for Google Images, put in a word like cotton candy, and watch a universe of images open up to stimulate your imagination. HuffingtonPost.com. Look at the art or culture section to see cutting-edge things that are occurring in the world of the visual arts or in the world of culture. TheDailyBeast.com. Daily Beast is a wild mix of story and other stuff. RestorationHardware.com. Trust us, it's amazing. Artspan.com. Artists, lots of artists. MichaelGraves.com, home of architect and designer Michael Graves. YouTube.com. In case you've been living in a cave somewhere, YouTube is packed with videos. Search inattentional blindness, change blindness, and see what you come up with. thefuntheory.com. Can you change behavior easier if it is fun? Etsy, ETSY.com. Marketplace for crafters to sell their arts. Kickstarter.com. Innovations, startup, and causes looking for crowdfunding. For more magazines, websites, and creative resources, go to timetojumpstart.com. So, friends, we come to the end of Chapter 1. In the next chapter, we will talk about why there is a crisis in creativity. At the end of each chapter, you will find a Work It page. This section is designed to help you stop and think about what you just read or heard. It will help you determine your strengths and the areas where you need improvement. It also allows you to take notes and to create action plans to build each area of creativity. So here's the Work It section for Chapter 1. If you don't have the book, take out a notepad and write these down. Which ideation technique are you most likely to use first and why? What are some of the issues you could work on right away, at work, at home, or within yourself, that would benefit greatly from ideation? When are you going to schedule your first ideation experience, and who needs to be invited? What are the benefits or the value of making and taking the time to follow through on an ideation experience? How will your work life or personal life be better for it? What will inspire you to take action right now?